Hello, and here's your test review. This is, for anyone can watch this, but it's really specifically for the kids that have the Algebra 2 support after they take their quiz, so you can watch this on your own. Okay, so we're given three functions, f of x, g of x, and h of x, and we're asked to do different operations. So for the first one, we just have to recognize what that means. And it just means take f of x and add it to h of x. Sorry about the bad writing. I don't really know how to fix that. Okay, so I take f of x, which is 2x subtraction 5, and I add it to h of x, which is 5x squared minus 2x. So now it really just becomes polynomial addition or combining like terms, however you want to think of it. So I'm going to write 5x squared, 2 minus 2 is 0, so there are no x's left, and then subtraction 5. Okay? All right, for the next one, what we do is we work from the inside out. So we're actually going to take g of 6, which means find the value when you substitute in a 6 into the function labeled as g of x. So I plug in the 6, and again, you can use your calculator if you don't want to do the mental math, but it's basically 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 1, which is 25, and then the square root of that. So that's going to equal 5. Now I'm going to use a 5 when I substitute into f. So remember, you're working from the inside out. So now I'm going to find f of 5. Okay, so f of 5, plug in a 5. 2 times 5, subtraction 5. And that also ends up being a 5, and that's just coincidence. And now I'm going to plug it into h. And h says 5x squared subtraction 2x. So 5 times the quantity 5 squared, subtraction 2 times a 5. Okay? And you can evaluate that on your calculator, or again, you could do mental math. So 5 squared is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Squared is 25. 25 times 125 minus 10 should be 115. Okay, and you can put that in your graphing calculator to make sure that you did that right. Okay. All right. So now this is called composition. So basically, you have to start with the second one. So I'm going to do h of x, and h of x is just what it says. So I'm actually going to take h of x, and I'm going to write it in a parentheses so that I remember that that's how I'm substituting it. I'm going to take h of x and I'm going to substitute it into f of x. So I'm going to replace the x with the function h of x. So I plug this in. Use the distributive property. And that's actually my answer because it's already in standard form. Worked out. Okay. So this basically says that you're going to multiply. So you're going to do f of x times h of x. Okay, be careful. This one with the little circle, that's different than this symbol, which means multiplication. All right, so just make sure you look really closely at it. Okay, so f of x times h of x. And again, we're using our friend the distributive property, but we're doing it twice. So sometimes we call it double distribute. So that would give us 10x cubed minus 4x squared minus 25x squared plus 10x. And that's just multiplication. And then we simplify or put it in standard form, however you want to think of it. And that becomes 10x cubed minus 29x squared plus 10x. So that's basically operations with functions. You have to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide functions. Okay? And it's really just polynomial operations. And you do know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide polynomials. So you got this. Okay, so this is reading a table. Basically, you'll be given two tables and you have to evaluate. So the first one says f of 6 plus g of 6. So I go to my table and I find when f is 6, and that gives me an answer of 10. I go to my other table and I find when x is 6, and that gives me an answer of 26. And then the operation is to add. Okay? This basically means f of 0 times g of 0. So again, I go to my table, I find when x is 0, the answer is 6. I go to my table, when x is 0, the answer is 5. And 6 times 5 is 30. This means division. So I'm going to find the answer for f of 3, and I'm going to divide it by the answer for g of 3. All right, I'm just going to move my face. All right, so f of 3 is 8. G of 3 is 12. 8 divided by 12, you can write that a couple of ways. I just simplified it to 2/3 by pulling out the greatest common factor of 4. I would stay away from writing it as a repeating decimal, but honestly, as long as you remember the bar over it, like 0.6 repeating, it would be fine. But I would keep it a fraction, 2/3. Okay. All right, now it's the same thing, but we're using graphs. So I'm sorry, but I gotta make it a little smaller so that I can actually see the graph and the question at the same time. All right, so again, you work from the inside out. So I'm gonna find f of -2, and I just go to the graph where x is -2, and I find that, and that's the answer is 2. Now I'm gonna use that with g, so I find g of 2. So I go to where 2 is on the x, open circle, close circle, so it's equal to 3. And that would be your final answer. It would be 3. Okay? This is subtraction, so I'm going to find g of 1, and I'm going to subtract from that f of 1. So first I go to the picture, that's g, and 1 gives me 1. I go to the picture that's labeled f, and 1 gives me 8. So I have 1 minus 8. Let me just make sure it gives me 8 because it's hard for me to see. I'm pretty sure that's an 8, and that's a -7. I'm just going to double check on my paper because it's easier for me to see on the paper. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8. 1 gives me 8. Okay, good. So the answer is -7. Okay, again, you work from the inside out. Okay, so I'm going to do g of 4. G of 4, that arrow definitely touches a 4. And then I do f of 4, and f of 4 is 0. So that's my final answer, 0. Okay? You know, it's going to be similar questions, just different graphs, so you just really have to focus on how to read them. Remember that a closed circle or a point is part of the graph, but an open circle is really just like indicating a boundary. So if I look at when x is 2 on the G graph, you notice that the answer is the 3, not where the open circle is on the 2. Okay? Fairly simple, right? Okay, for an inverse, you can look at the pictures. Remember that they're always symmetric to the line y equals x. But the basic algebraic idea is that you take the x and the y and you switch places. So where the x was, I put a y, and where the g of x was, I put an x, because g of x is the same as y. Okay, and now you want to solve for y. So this is not so bad. You're just going to do the opposite of the square root. the opposite of squaring is square root. So I get the square root of x is equal to y plus 4. Okay, and then you subtract 4 from both sides. So you get y is equal to the square root of x subtraction 4. I wrote it like really far away, but you just want to make sure that that subtraction 4 is not under the square root sign. Hold on, my lights went out. Okay. Now, you can type both of those into your graphing calculator and just look and see if it's symmetric to that line y equals x. Also, on square roots, you have to restrict the domain, so it would also restrict what values you use, but that is, I do not believe, on the quiz. Okay. Average rate of change is really just an application of using the slope formula. So we want to find out the values of y for the x's that they want. And they want 100 and they want 180. So basically they're taking something that's curved, this is a cubic, and they're placing a line connecting those 2 points. And they're saying, like, if this line existed, what would be the slope of that line? So I would just use my calculator and take this cubic, and you can either put it into the y sub 1 and go to the table, or you can just substitute using the regular calculator screen. Okay, so I did put those in, but I'll show you at least once how to type it in. So basically you just type what you're given, and it's 0.01. I'm substituting in the number 100. I'm cubing that. And then it's 0.4. I'm substituting in the number 100. And then that's being squared. It's 1.7, and I'm substituting in the number 100. And then it's add 350. Okay? All right, so let me just make sure that I typed that right, because that's different than what I got when I typed it the first time. Okay. I just want to make sure I typed it right. So 350. Oh, see, I didn't type it right. I forgot something here. I knew I might have typed it wrong. Second insert. I need the plus sign there. All right, enter. Yeah, that's still not what I got the first time I typed it. Boy, oh boy. 0.01. Look, I forgot the plus sign here. I'm so sorry, guys. Well, at least I'm showing you that everyone's human, right? Okay. So, second insert, plus sign. That is what I got the first time. Okay, so that's how you type it, but hopefully you type it right the first time. All right, so I got 14,520. All right, so now I'm going to do slope. So I'm going to do it right on the calculator. I had alpha x to get the fraction, and it's y2, which I got 71,936, minus y1, 14,520, and then over x2, which is 180, and it's x sub 2. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Okay, and then you hit enter. Now, this is an answer. It's a great answer, but they do want it to the nearest tenth, so I just do division. I find that easier. You could convert it from a fraction to a decimal. That's another approach, but I just do it. I mean, you can divide by 10 by just moving the decimal point, so that's pretty simple as well. All right, so what I would write on my paper for my work is next to the x, I would write 14,520. Double check your typing on the calculator. It's kind of embarrassing, but then again, it's not, because like it's good to show you guys that, like, listen, we all make mistakes and it's okay, but we check our work, okay? And then this would be what I wrote for the work for actually finding the slope. And then I wrote an 80 here because I did the 180 minus 100 in my head. And then I got 717.7. I didn't have to round, but you probably will on your quiz. And find the average rate of change, and that's it. It would be total cost in dollars to produce, so it would be like money per item. All right? Good luck on your quiz. It's been my pleasure helping you, and email me if you have any questions.